I think I found a loophole to get a free motorcycle trip. Here's my plan.
Find a bike for a cracking deal and buy it. Take said bike on a trip with my girlfriend. Make the bike look better than ever so I can sell it for a profit and use that profit to fund the trip I just went on, covering everything from hotels and fuel all the way to insurance, therefore returning my bank account back to its original balance and rendering my trip free.
It sounds easy, right? But I have no idea if it's possible, so let's try.
Thank you to Quadlock for sponsoring this video.
So yes, you do need money to do this concept, but if I can pull it off, technically it'll be free. I've been itching to go on a motorcycle trip for about 2 years now, but I always seem to find excuses. I'm cheap and trips cost money. It gives me anxiety. You see, I really like the idea of a trip and I know it will be huge fun. But I've never done a motorcycle trip before and the idea of something going wrong 4 hours from home kinda scares me. Finally, I'm a spoiled brat. I want to do a trip in relative comfort, otherwise I don't want to do it at all. I know it is stupid, and I know the whole getting out of your comfort zone thing is good for you.
I should just hop on my MT-09 and go. It might not be perfect, but it's good enough and free. But I think this ties into the anxiety problem.
In my mind, if I have a bike made for the task at hand, things are less likely to go wrong. Plus, I have something rather big I'd like to pack.
My girlfriend. I actually planned on doing a trip with the Kawasaki KLR 650 that I had 18 months ago, but then chickened out because it was too slow and not fun to ride long distances.
Just another made-up excuse stopping me from doing something fun. The truth is, it doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive to be fun, which is why I've set this challenge for myself. Because if I can tick all of the boxes, it'll be comfortable, enjoyable, and free. So hopefully I can see what motorcycle trips are all about and do it more often. The first step is to find the right bike, but it might be challenging because it's got to fit quite a few criteria.
First of all, it has to be suitable for touring. To me, that means an engine bigger than a 750, so it's comfortable at highway speeds and beyond. It must have a windscreen so I'm protected, cruise control because I'm delicate, a way to fit luggage, and be suitable for a passenger so I can pack my girlfriend.
I think that just about covers all the bases. But of course, this whole concept relies on me being able to find a bike that I can sell for more than I bought it for when I'm done with it.
If I was rich, I could just buy a brand new Yamaha Tracer 9 GT. But then I would take a huge loss when selling it, not to mention I can't afford one.
So I think the trick here is going to be to find a bike that needs some basic TLC. If it's really dirty, for example, it should look bad and sell for less, but it shouldn't take too much effort for me to be able to clean it up a bit and make it more valuable.
I then found a really old, really dodgy Honda Goldwing for like $1,500. But the less a bike is worth, the less profit I'm going to make.
And since the profit is ultimately my budget, I need as much of it as I can get.
For example, if I make a 10% profit on the $1,500 Goldwing, that's only $150, which won't go far. Whereas if I spend closer to the $5,000 mark and make a 10% profit, I get to work with $500, which is far more feasible.
But I think there is still a limit to that concept. Firstly, my bank account. But even if I could afford a $20,000 Ducati Multistrada V4S, I don't think there's going to be that many people looking to spend so much money on a bike, so it might take quite a long time to sell when I'm done with it. But somewhere between those two extremes has got to be the sweet spot. But I'm going to look at this anyway. Do you see now how much there is to consider? So I think somewhere near the $5,000 mark is a good area to aim for. And I need something popular so that lots of people want it when I put it up for sale. Not something rare like a Moto Guzzi V100 that no one has ever heard of.
I also found this Ducati Multistrada 950 for sale, which looks awesome. I mean, yes it is the baby Multistrada, but I could get behind being a Ducati rider. However, it's quite a bit over budget, and I think a Ducati will be harder to sell than something common and more reliable.
Also, we don't use US dollars here in South Africa, but everyone knows their local currency conversion from USD, hence why I use it in videos. And don't forget that bike markets vary a lot from country to country. So if you see a bike going crazy cheap or crazy expensive here, don't get too excited. I do know my local market pretty well because I spend way too much time on Marketplace.
Honestly, there was a lot less around the $5,000 mark than I expected. Even the old Yamaha Tracer 900s are going for more than my budget, which upset me. But I did find a 2012 BMW R1200 RT, which was within budget.
It is a good option. Technically, it does tick all the boxes, but I don't think I'm ready to be that old just yet. This is taking comfort too far, even for me, because I don't think it's going to be fun to ride, but it's an option if I don't find anything better.
That took me down the BMW R1200 rabbit hole, and I looked at a few GS's. You can get the air-cooled ones for crazy cheap, but I hate the way those look.
I think I just found something that could work. This is literally the cheapest liquid-cooled 1200 GS that doesn't have over 100,000 kilometers on it. It's listed at $5,250, but I think that means that I can negotiate and get it for a nice round $5,000. Okay, good news and bad news. The bad news is that other people have real jobs, so I can't go look at the bike right now at 11 AM on a Wednesday. But the good news is that I can look at it tomorrow morning at 9:30.
My excitement for a GS was already growing. I rode my mate's 1250 GS 2 years ago and didn't like it that much, but it's a bike I've recently been keen to try.
Okay, no worries. Well, thanks for letting me know. Cheers. Bye. Okay, so he just sold it, which is rude. I knew it would sell quickly at that price. I just didn't think that quickly. I thought I at least had until tomorrow morning, which is annoying. So I guess that's back to the drawing board. I got one. I didn't manage to get the cheapest liquid-cooled GS in the country, but I did manage to get the second cheapest liquid-cooled GS under 100,000 Ks on a Thursday in a hurry. And I'm pretty excited.
So this one was listed at $5,750, but I used my ruthless negotiation skills and bagged it for $350 less.
And it ticks almost all the boxes.
Suitable for touring? I think so. Engine bigger than a 750. Damn right, this behemoth boasts 1170 cc's of adventure bike goodness. Windscreen for my protection, tick, with added adjustability for cool points. Luggage? Of course, one-time sexy top box with ample room for storage. Suitable for a passenger? Please, this rear seat is more comfortable than my couch. Cruise control? Cruise control? About that. This is where the switch is supposed to be.
But this bike wasn't spec'd to have it, so I suspect I'm going to have a sore wrist after a few hours.
However, this bike is so close to perfect for what I want that I was happy to overlook such a small detail. But ask me again after the ride.
And that's not the only problem with this bike. It's also so good that I'm not really sure how I'm going to add any value to it at all. But that's my challenge for after the trip.
This is a 2013 BMW R1200 GS.
Sadly, not the adventure model, just the regular one.
It's 11 years old and has 67,000 kilometers on it.
Normally, I wouldn't touch a bike with more than around 30,000 kilometers on it, but a GS, or any adventure touring bike for that matter, is made differently. You can often find these things with over 100,000 kilometers on them and still going strong. It also has full service history, so I'm pretty confident that it can get me there and back.
2013 was the first year of the liquid-cooled GS's, and for an 11-year-old bike, it has a surprising amount of luxuries, especially for only $5,400. Obviously, it has the old-school tach and speedo with analog needles, but it also has the added LCD with infinite info on display, like fuel range, air temp, fuel consumption, tire pressure, and even oil level, to list a few.
A lot of this stuff you won't even find on brand new bikes.
It also has that beautiful LED headlight that looks awesome while riding. It has automatic lights, heated grips, rain, road, dynamic, enduro, and enduro pro riding modes. But my favorite feature is the electronic suspension.
First of all, it can be set between soft, medium, and hard. But my favorite part is that you can tell it whether you're riding alone, with some luggage, or even with a passenger. And it will automatically adjust the height of the rear to compensate for the extra weight. And yes, this is the first bike I've ever owned with electronic suspension, hence why I'm so excited. I know I am a decade late.
I do love the spoked wheels, although I wish the rims were black. There is some rust on the headers and accumulated dirt from years of riding, but I think I can get it to shine again, which is hopefully where I can add some value back to it.
It also has landing lights like a commercial jet.
It already has SW Motec crash bars around the cylinder heads, which may come in handy, because I can barely touch the ground and only weigh 60 kilos, so the bike basically controls me rather than the other way around. It does, however, have a square rear tire, but there's still a decent amount of tread left on it, and we're on a budget, so I'm going to live with it.
But other than that, it's a BMW GS. They're famous for a reason, and you probably see 20 of them every single day. Loads of people love them, but just as many hate them. However, one thing is for sure, it's on my bucket list to own and experience. A shakedown ride is a necessity before the trip, just to put the bike to the test. In fact, I may have been impatient and excited and already did the one thing that 90% of GS's never do. I took it off-road.
My first obstacle was a hectic 80-yard off-road detour. I entered Enduro Pro mode since I am a pro, made sure to stand up like a good ADV rider,
I'm living the GS dream, baby.
And safely made it back to the tarmac, where I re-entered my safe road mode. What a rush. But in all seriousness, this thing is beautifully plush on a sand road. You could do it all day. I arrogantly thought my motocross experience would help me here, but this thing is a different animal just because of its sheer size and weight. I really wanted to get to this excavator for a photo under its arm, but I didn't think I could get the GS back up the step if I went down. I wouldn't even have hesitated on a dirt bike. I always give GS riders shit for not taking their bikes off-road, but now I see how intimidating it can be.
Sadly, I don't think there's going to be any off-roading on my trip, so this needs a real shakedown ride on the road. But first, I need to sort this out.
You see, my GS also came with the BMW nav mount, but not the nav itself. And they sell for hundreds of dollars, which isn't in the budget.
I will, however, need a GPS to find my way around, but luckily I have my trusty quad lock phone mount.
I already have a durable quad lock case on my phone that has the needed notch in the back, and their handlebar mount fits perfectly in the center of the bars here. I made sure to add their vibration dampener as well, since motorcycle vibrations can damage the stabilization in modern phone cameras. And then all I have to do is twist my phone 45 degrees and it's locked on either vertically or horizontally.
I can now have Waze right in front of me so I can easily see any speed traps up ahead, or control my music, or even just see who's calling me so I can ignore them easier.
They make phone cases for all popular devices or offer a universal adapter so anyone can join the ecosystem. But just as importantly, they make a mount to fit any bike, from a brake reservoir mount all the way to a clutch lever mount and everything in between. And when you're done, you just press down this tab and twist, so nobody can just yank your phone off when you're stopped.
And that is just a sliver of their offerings. So follow the link in the description to find a mount to fit your bike and a phone case solution.
So with navigation taken care of, we were on our way.
Welcome to its maiden voyage. Well, not really, I've been riding it around all week, but it's our first outing as a family. So we're going to do a shakedown run today. We're only going to go about an hour from home, so it'll be 2-ish hours in total. We're going to give her a chance to figure out how to sit on the back. It's going to be the most comfortable thing she's ever been on. We're at a petrol station, but don't fool you, or don't let that make you think we need petrol, because we still have 200 k's of range, and I mean, I filled up when I bought it, so that's impressive. I'm tempted to put the heated grips on just because I can, even though it's like 30 degrees. It's really annoying that you can't start it in gear. I don't understand. Is there a problem with my bike? Or is that a BMW thing?
And don't forget the famous tug to the left from that Boxer engine when you fire it up. An endearing quirk if you ask me. But a less endearing quirk is just how clunky the gearbox is. Every gear change feels like I'm personally inside the gearbox, moving the gears around.
In conditions like this, my fuel range just keeps going up. I was down to about 185 k's to go on a tank. Now it's just climbed back up to 199. And I saw it up there, it's back to 200. It's so slow that our fuel is actually increasing. I'm practically making fuel, and they say internal combustion is bad for the environment. I disagree.
I was also the first rider in GS history not to ride around with my landing lights on at all times.
Wait for it, we got another GS behind us, but I suspect he's going to be going faster than me. I'm just part of the clan. He actually knows the speed limit though. Actually, he just doesn't care. The weirdest thing about this bike to me is that it's always going faster than it feels like it is. So up ahead is the speed sign that I can hardly see behind the trees, so I'm just going to ignore it. It's 80. I'm doing 110. It's not even intentional. If you ask me how fast do I feel like I'm going, I would say 80. I think it's a mix of, first of all, that speedometer is absolute rubbish. I can hardly read it from here, and I'm not that far away. And I've seen other people agree with me on how bad these gauges are. But also, I think because it's such a big bike, it feels like it's going slower than it really is. And then you look down and you're breaking the speed limit, which of course I would never do intentionally.
Big motors like this can usually lug any gear without too much fuss, but this thing seems to hanker after the correct gear. For example, it can lug 100 km/h in 6th, but that doesn't feel like its first choice. 5th is more of its happy place at that speed.
I keep getting passed by all the guys that clearly know these roads better than me, but hey, I'm just out cruising, I'm just having fun. I don't want to get arrested. I want a GS. I've gotten way faster in my life than this.
For such a big bike, it changes direction really easily though, and the brakes are surprisingly good too. I guess they're intended to stop a fully laden bike, so they're extra good when the bike is light. But I'm still not sure how I feel about the telelever front suspension. I don't really like it, but I also feel like it might grow on me.
Well, I don't think I've ever been so comfortable on a motorcycle in my life. I'm the closest I've ever been to the speed limit, because what's the point? I'm out here to be comfortable. I got my windscreen raised, no wind in my face whatsoever, despite the fact I have a visor. I'm in road mode for peak comfort. I even have my suspension set for 2 people on the bike. So basically now that raised it and made it so tall that I can't touch the ground. So dropping it is imminent. But right now that we're balancing, we're upright, it's comfortable. I got my stats, I can see how far I can go on my tank of fuel. I got my engine temp, I have a fuel gauge. I even have my GPS on my quad lock. It's not a bad day.
We stopped for breakfast without sore wrists, sore backs, or ringing ears from wind noise and a loud exhaust, which was a first for me. After bike spotting, some delicious coffee, and a traditional breakfast, we made our way home with confirmed confidence in the GS.
Now it's time to see where we stack up financially in this challenge.
After looking at similar bikes for sale, I reckon I could sell this for 6 grand after some TLC. Remember, I got the bike for $5,400, so that would give me a budget of $600. But I've already added more expenses. Fuel to get home was $23.79. Insurance is $33.56 per month. And everything involved to get the title in my name for the bike cost $108.46, bringing us to a grand total of $5,565.81, or only $434.19 remaining, assuming I can pull this off.
So I'd already have to sell the bike for $165.81 more than I bought it for just to break even. It's quite a lot considering we haven't even left home yet. But of course, there's still the trip to come, which I just booked yesterday. So subscribe so you don't miss that. But anyway, let me know what you think is the cheapest way to do a motorcycle trip, and I'll see you on the next ride.